Hello and welcome to the Cedar River Snag-After Hours. Daphne, I hope that's what we're calling it because I literally have said that the last. We are number 5 now. Woohoo, number 5. Right, and well, okay, so what we are is we are improv background noise. If you know, you know. Something to fall asleep, something to work to. Sometimes you can't always watch a video. Minimize me now, I do not care because all I am is background noise. You can check in, you can check out. Sometimes you need to find something you can do that with, and it needs to be on YouTube. I understand that. I have a very similar situation myself. So, hey, here we are. And before I go too much further, you know what? Do we have a topic? No. I didn't think so. Anyway, fall's coming. Most of you probably don't ice fish, and I don't know if you've ever ice fished. It's like fishing, but it's fishing on ice. And generally speaking, it's cold and it's horrible, and if you don't take a fish finder and find a hole with fish, it just kind of sucks. But I think that's what we'll go into. I've went ice fishing. It's not even about fishing at this point in time. It's more about not even how many times I fell through the ice, because I'm not going to discuss that. It's been way too many. I have fell through the ice way too many times. Let's just say that. But before we go any further, welcome. This is not intended for children under the age of 18. We'll say not intended for kids. This is more PG-13. Maybe some harsh language, suggestive situations, all that stuff. But, if you let your spawn roam free on YouTube, they've probably heard worse. And I'm sorry if I'm sucking air like I'm asthmatic. It is fall in the Midwest, and they're like harvesting and cutting everything. I have this damn death rattle. I don't know what it feels like. I just cannot get it up and out, and I ain't gonna cough in your ear, so listen to me rasp for a while. See? But yeah, welcome. And I am your host, Cedar. If you recognize me, you're like, I know your voice. I know whatever. Yep, that is me. Congratulations. This is one of my new projects on the web. I was a victim of the music right change, which ended up in a muting of like thousands of videos. And it's a whole... Anyway, glad you found me. Welcome. And, just to go into ice fishing, because, that's what we're going to talk about. Ice fishing, my buddy swears that you got to take a fish finder out, right? Now, I'm less prepared than that. I just like to go out, find a remote spot, drill a hole, fish, see if there's any fish there. If there's not, whatever. My buddy, he's all about catching fish, and he's like, you got to take a damn fish finder. You got to find the fish, then you drill a hole, then you fish for the fish, and... Alright, I guess if you're fishing for the fish, but I just fish to fish. It's relaxing. You sit in nature. Sometimes it's better if nothing bites. If you're sitting there throwing back some cold ones and doing whatever and just, hanging out outside. Like, fishing is... To me, it's therapeutic. It's really not... But ice fishing kind of sucks because it's cold. There's not a lot of fish. I mean, you can hit some hot spots and... You can do some damage, but for the most part, in my experience, it's cold. There ain't a lot of fish. And it's not really worth it other than it scratches that fishing itch in the middle of wintertime. Which, is for me, it's a wonderful thing. But that being said, I have fell through the ice several times ice fishing on sketchy ice or ice edges or... just being dumb in the wintertime on the water, right? It happens. You fall through, you get wet, you dry off. But the worst time I have ever fallen through the ice, and oh, God, it's a long story. I used to be that young, strong, dumb friend. Like, yeah, I'll do this for you. I'll pick up and drag your boat across the driveway so you don't have to, like, hook up and back your hitch up and pull it up, because, I could. And I didn't have a big problem doing that. Like, I was able to, and I would just like to show off sometimes. And yeah, no problem. I'm going to rip this tree stump out from the ground with my bare hands. BEAR, literally bare heads. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, I went and I stopped, and there was like a blizzard coming. There was like this horrible storm coming from the north down. And like it was a blizzard. And I stopped at my buddy's house to be like, hey, this blizzard's coming. You guys ready? And I literally, it was a half mile down a gravel road with no ditches, like literally just a straight chug through gravel road. I got a F350 with like 42-inch off-road. Like, I don't have a problem getting home from there, and he knew this. So we hung out for a little bit, and he's like, okay, I got my ice hut out on the ice. He goes, the water's supposed to come up. He's like, I gotta go down tomorrow morning and get it. He goes, after this blizzard or snow and everything else. He's like, man, dude, come help me get it tonight. He's like, we'll go out. We'll go ice fishing for a little bit. And he's like, then we'll just drag it up and we'll come back. And he's like, it's a pretty good spot. And I'm, fine, all right. And I'm like, what's good? It's snowing outside. Like, it's ice and snow and it's cold. And I'm like, dude, I don't know. And he convinced me because we hooked up to his truck, basically. And we put the ramps on the back of his truck and then pulled his four-wheeler up inside of his truck because he had a super four-wheeler. And so we loaded up his truck and we drove it out as far as we could. Parked the truck, packed the snow down, back and forth, the normal stuff so you make sure you can get out. And we got out and we got on the four-wheeler. And it was like a 20-minute ride. It was forever from his truck to the ice hut. And we get down and it's out on the riverbank, and the ice is thick and everything else. And it's snowing really good. And it's cold and miserable. And he's like, okay, we got a cooler and some beer and there's stuff to smoke and some cigarettes and all that jazz. And we're like, okay, so we load up in his ice hat. And he's like, all right, let's fish for a little bit. He's like, and we parked the four-wheeler out on the ice right by the ice hut. And he's like, then we'll just hook the winch up. He's like, dude, and I'll just drag it back up here by the bank. He's like, if it goes under a foot or so, it won't matter. And he had the propane heater and everything up on the wall. Like, it was a fancy hut. And so we got the heat going, and we're partying in there, listening to the radio, and just having a good time fishing, catching nothing. And we're laughing because it's nasty outside. But we're standing in like 3-4 inches of water. And we're like, God, we got to turn that heater down. Like, we're going to melt through laughing. Like, it's comical, right? And finally, I had to take a leak. So I went outside and I stepped there and I'm standing on the ice and I realized I'm in like 4 to 5 inches of water over this ice, and I'm listening to it. Nice crack, so you hear it. You don't think anything of it. But I'm hearing all this ice crack and I'm out there. Well, up north had the storm, the same blizzard we were getting. But it was a warm front, whatever, and it just rained up there, so all the water had come down, and now was down there. Well, it was warmer water, and it was going up over the ice. So I'm standing out there taking a leak, and I'm listening, and big chunks of ice are like breaking off, floating up, popping up to the top, and floating off down the water like there's ice flow happening. I'm like, whoa, that ain't good. And so I finish, and I go inside, and we crack another one, and we're having a good old time in there, just cheersing it up. And all of a sudden it's cracking, and I'm telling him, I'm like, okay, we gotta get going, because I'm like, the ice is breaking up out mid-river. I'm like, go look outside, dude, the water's up. And he's like, whatever. And he goes outside and he took a leak. And when he come back in, he's like, holy shit, man, do you know that, like, what's going on out there? And I'm like, yeah, that water's coming up. We gotta go. And, like, when he came in, like, literally, like, mid-exchange, the ice hole broke in half. And the floor just spun out from underneath of us while we're standing inside this ice hut. Like, literally, we're, like, doing the ice hut dance, trying to stay up. So we grabbed the cooler and the fishing poles, and we're going underwater as we're coming out of the damn ice hut. Hey, welcome back. We record live to tape, and there was a sad incident. But anyway, we're back, and Like, literally, we're crawling out of this ice hut. Why? It's sinking. Really? I don't know if you can hear that, but this was our previous interruption. You are gonna go to jail. Anyway, so the ice hut's sinking. We come out of it. We got the poles and the beer, and we're out scattering on and the ice is like breaking up underneath of us in little pieces. So we're climbing across this stuff, throwing everything up. We get up on bank. We are soaking wet, and it's like freezing rain out where we are. Like, this is not nice weather, and we're both standing there freezing. And I look at him, and he looks at me. He's like, "We got to get on that four-wheeler and get up to the truck." And like, for a brief minute, thought for sure that four-wheeler was going to break loose and just take off down on a piece of ice down the water. But it broke loose, and it ended up tipping and just going boop right under the water, about 10 foot out. And so we saw that, and we were like, "Oh shit!" He's like, "We gotta run back to the truck. This is a 20-minute drive on a four-wheeler. 20 minutes. There ain't no way. I am frozen. My outside of my clothes already have ice on them. There's ice falling on me from the sky, and I'm shivering." He's like, "We gotta run back to the truck." And I'm like, "There ain't no way I'm running back to the truck." And thank God he had bought. This was the 90s. They came out with the jet torch lighters. They had the little gas tank on the bottom. They were just butane torches, basically. And he bought one of those because he was like, "Oh man," he's all like, "I could weld with this. Like, I could." And I'm like, "Dude, you can't weld with that. You could solder with that. Maybe." But he bought one and he hated it because he'd use it to light his cigarettes and he'd just keep cutting the tip off. Anyway, so glad he had that because I was looking around and I had noticed there was a big half dead pine tree, right? Like, it's all brown on one side, and I don't know what was going on, but it was like half dead. So I see this tree, and the snow's deep, so I go pouncing through this stuff like Tigger to get over this, and I just jump into this tree, and he's like standing there watching, don't know. And I'm in there, I can't feel my hands. I got them in my gloves, but my gloves are wet, and I still can't feel my hands, and I'm just ripping off all the pine needles from this brown side of the tree, snapping any little branch in, and I'm just throwing them down. And I got this pile going. And thank God he had that. I called it a crackhead lighter. He had that lighter because he came through there, and I was like, "Give me your lighter." And I lit this little pile up, and we kept throwing sticks and everything else, like you warm your fingers up a little bit, and running in place around this thing. And it took, I don't know, it probably took 20, 30 minutes, and we ended up catching the whole side of that tree on fire, like, because it was all dead. But once that went up and you could break stuff off and there was stuff laying around all over, we got a pretty good fire going in about 20, 30 minutes. And it was cold. And once this fire's going and like I'm warming up, I'm like, okay, I'm looking back. I'm like, "Did you bring the cooler?" And he's like, "No." And I'm like, "Oh shit." And I can see it out on the ice. And I'm like, "We got to get the beer." And he's like, "We don't need the beer." I'm like, yeah, we need the beer." So I made him like hold my feet while we slid out, and I grabbed the cooler. And we went back around the fire, and dude, I was literally in my boxer shorts out in the middle of the woods, freezing to death, like rotating slowly around this fire with my socks and everything all up on sticks. And we never really got them dry. We got them drier, but we got them hot, which really helped. But we put this, once we like literally like dried our shirts and shit, I hold them on sticks over the fire. Once they were dry enough, you could put them on, there was a little bit warmth. But the coats and stuff were heavy. They took a while. We were out there for a minute. We almost finished the cooler. And at that point, I was like, okay, we got like 2 left apiece. It's going to be a long walk. We should probably get going. Like, yeah, and by the time we got back up to the truck, yeah, we were frozen solid again. Like, all the damp, the warmth, damp humidity, it did turn cold and ice, like, and it was not fun. But we made it back up to the truck, and then we got up there, and he was like, "Oh no, I forgot my key, or lost the keys, they're down there." Like, and I was like, "Oh hell no!" I literally was looking for something. I was gonna bust that window, and I'm like, "I'm gonna hotwire this thing right here, right now." Like, you don't even know. I'm going to at least, I might not be able to unlock the steering, but I'm going to turn the heater on full blast. And he was like, oh no, I got him, because he had him clipped inside. Like, he had specifically had it. And we started that truck up, man, and we drove that back. And I'll be damned if the next morning he didn't call me and be like, you want to come down and help me try to pull that stuff out? And I'm like, dude, no, I don't. But anyway, that's probably my favorite, one of my favorite ice fishing stories. And even if you don't ice fish, like I said, it should be quasi-enjoyable. This is number 5, so I'm going to pop these all out here, and we'll probably record a couple more weeks. 1 per week, unless we get traction. Yeah, if we get traction, we'll do 2 per week. Hell, enough traction, we'll do 3 per week. 15 minutes, I can do 1 per day. It's live to tape. It ain't that bad. Anyway, I'm excited. Number 5, we'll start popping these out there. If you made it this far, you watched the other ones, watched whatever, go back through, check it out. It's just mundane talk. I am here just to fill a void. It's a very specific void. Maybe you're falling asleep. Maybe you just don't care what you're watching, but you need something on. Hey, that's me. Congratulations, you found me. But, in all realness, do the stuff, like, subscribe, everything else, because that would really help me, if these, people want these. And I don't care if it's like 3 people. If you haven't seen my TikTok, there's like 6 people I actually interact with, and they're actually kind of cool. But anyway, I digress. You have a wonderful time, and number 5, we'll celebrate number 5. Johnny 5 is alive. See you next time.